Hey there guys, how's it going? And welcome to a new video in my Black Ops 2 Gold Gun series. Now, if you don't know, in this series I go through all of the weapons that you can get camo for in Black Ops 2 and then get the gold camo. And with the experience that I have from having had to have, get all those kills and headshots and achievements to get that camo, and then mixed with looking at the properties and statistics of each weapon, I give you guys the best advice for what I think are maybe the best attachments, the best playstyle, and then possibly perks as well, because playstyle is as important as perks and attachments in this game. It's not all about just sticking on the right attachment and you'll do great. Sometimes it's about how you approach each gunfight and each situation, which will allow you to get the most out of each weapon. So first things first, what is the Peacekeeper? This is Call of Duty's first ever gun available through DLC. So it's the first time they've thrown another gun into the game after the release. It's available with the Revolution DLC. If you download that, it's available now on Xbox Live. And I presume it will be available on the other platforms eventually. It's normally a few weeks to maybe a month after the Xbox release. So this gun is advertised as an SMG and assault rifle hybrid, although it is in the SMG class. And just quickly, for those of you wondering, if you want to get camo for it, or the diamond camo that I've got here, you will need to have gold on all the other SMGs. If you don't have this DLC and you want to get diamond for your standard SMGs, you will also be able to do that without having to download the DLC, just for a few of you that were maybe a little bit confused about that. So it's got some very interesting statistics. Basically, it handles like a submachine gun, but fires like an assault rifle. And I'll go more into detail about that later in the video, but let's take a look at the recoil patterns and see how it behaves. So I'm going to go over these quite quickly. You can see here, first off, we're going to test with no attachments. This is quite close range, but still you can actually see the recoil here, and generally this has quite a vertical recoil. You're not going to have to worry too much about horizontal. However, at a distance, you probably are going to need to burst this. Now, although the recoil is quite vertical, I did tend to find that sometimes there was a lot less recoil. So I'd actually say it's slightly random. Sometimes you'll find hardly any recoil, and other times there will be quite significant vertical recoil, especially going for headshots. And here you can see we have the quite controversial grip attachment, and here it doesn't seem to be making any difference whatsoever. Vonderhaar insists there are differences. Drifter, my man Drifter, also does Black Ops videos like me, says, you know, he tested them all out and there doesn't seem to be any difference, but here you can see it doesn't look like there's much difference at all if you attach it to this weapon, so I definitely wouldn't recommend attaching that. So first, let's take a look at some of the gun statistics, and then after that I'll go through my experiences and how I found the weapon, and I'll be able to give you my overall tips and advice for how to make the most out of this DLC gun. So it takes 4 to 6 shots to kill. This is quite reminiscent of an assault rifle, again backing up the way that this gun fires like an assault rifle, although handles like an SMG. So a lot of you who run around with SMGs aren't going to be used to having to put that many bullets into someone to be able to actually kill them. So it's not convenient for those of you guys who are rushers or into rushing gameplay. I would say if you're going to use this weapon and you've got that style of gameplay, you're going to have to change it up a little, put a bit of space between you and the enemy, try not to run into close quarters combat situations too much, although this gun can handle them okay. You know, if you're used to doing that with an assault rifle as well, you might not be too bad. So I'd say that this gun would tend to suit a guy who likes to play an assault kind of role, slightly defensive but does like to get involved in the action sometimes, but then also likes the idea of the extra mobility that a submachine gun brings. When you run a submachine gun, they have closer hip spread, which means when you're aiming from the hip you can be more accurate, and I've actually attached laser sight. I'll go into that in a little bit, which helps with that. Also, you run faster. With an assault rifle you run at 95% of your standard speed. With a submachine gun it is 100, and also while aiming down sight you can also move faster. So here you can see me aiming down sight. When I'm moving, I'm still moving relatively quickly like you would with a submachine gun. So if you like the idea of an assault play style, but you know, the idea of running faster and being able to move quickly, having better hip fire appeals to you, then this might be a gun that you definitely want to check out. So the most unique thing about this weapon and its main ability is the fact that it's very powerful over range, considering it's a submachine gun. Now, it's similar to the assault rifles in terms of its damage, but like I've said previously, it is a submachine gun, so you get those submachine gun kind of bonuses mixed with that damage range. But it is going to mean that you are going to probably lose out in very close quarters against most submachine guns, so bear that in mind if you do use this weapon. So taking all of this into account, what does this mean? Are the best attachments, perks, aesthetics and game style. Now, I think attachments are actually the most important thing in Call of Duty Black Ops 2 anyway, because this is a weapon guide and the attachments are the things that affect the weapon. So the reload is actually kind of fast on this. At first I thought it was quite slow, but then after playing the game a lot, I tend to find I didn't really need fast mags, so I didn't end up using that too much. The ones that I've gone for are reflex, suppressor and laser sight. Now, of course, with attachments, it's a very personal thing, but with my game style, I just found these really useful, so of course I'm going to let you guys know the ones I think are best. Take note, of course, if you do use things like a suppressor, it does affect your range, and obviously the range is one of the advantages of this gun, so you might not want to mess around with that, but I just like the suppressor because it also reduces the muzzle flash. Now, that is the kind of little sparks that come off of your gun while you're shooting, so when you combine a suppressor, especially with a reflex sight, it just looks really clean while you're firing and makes it really easy to stay on target, so I quite like that. Now, I had the laser sight because on these maps you do find yourself in a lot of close quarter situations. It's not the best at those, and just to help out a little bit, I've stuck the laser sight on, and what this means is in those close quarter situations when you're going to be firing from the hip, you're going to get more of your bullets on target than you would without using it, and that can be very useful and actually help you out a lot of the time, especially when you're facing people who are running around with other submachine guns that have a faster fire rate than this. Now, there are other good options. The select fire I quite liked because I find this vertical recoil quite difficult at a distance, and obviously I was trying to put a bit of distance between me and the opposition here, but it doesn't do anything special. It's just kind of a 3 burst. It still takes 4 shots at least to kill, so it's probably going to be a 2 burst. So it's kind of good for handling recoil if you're finding the recoil difficult. I do actually see a lot of people say this gun has hardly any recoil, and you do see that a lot of the time, but like I said previously, it just seems random to me. A lot of the time it will have hardly any recoil, and then some of the times it will have a serious vertical recoil, and you'll especially notice it when you're going for headshots. So the best thing to do, which is normally the best thing to do with most guns, is just aim for just below the chest, and then even if it kicks up a little bit, you might struggle. If you can only see the head of the opponent, then you're definitely going to want to burst the weapon, otherwise you are going to have a tough time. Another attachment some people have recommended is the select fire attachment. I definitely wouldn't go for this. The reason being is that it massively affects your range. Apparently it reduces it by 60%, which is literally huge in terms of Call of Duty terms for how much something affects a weapon, and it takes up to about 900 RPM, which is similar to an MP7, and if you want to go for a fast firing submachine gun, just use the MP7. There's no point in using up an attachment just to turn this gun into something that another gun already does. So I would definitely recommend using attachments which just kind of highlight and make the most of this gun's properties rather than try turning it into something else. If you don't like how it behaves and you'd rather have a high fire rate, for example, just use a gun with a high fire rate. This gun really is best suited to use, how it's meant to be used at range, and with a little bit of caution, but still able to get to objectives quickly and all that kind of thing. So I definitely think it's a decent weapon. I don't think this will be dominating the servers. Once people have kind of got over the gun a little bit and aren't using it so much and playing on the regular maps, I don't think you'll see much Peacekeeper gameplay, but it definitely has its place for those people. I'd say maybe if you're an assault rifle kind of guy and you just want to try out something else. If you're a submachine gun run and gunner and you're tearing it up, I reckon you'll probably stay with your PDW or whatever gun you like to use. But for those of you who are used to assault rifles and would like to try this out, I would definitely say this might be your weapon of choice. I know I quite like assault rifles, so this definitely does suit me. You have to play with it well. You have to be aiming down sight a lot. You do have to put a bit of space between you and the opposition. So I'm going to give this gun a 7 out of 10 because I don't think it's going to be what you'd call one of the top tier weapons. I'd give them an 8 or 9. However, it does have its place if used right, and it's definitely very interesting. I actually love the fact that they put in a gun DLC. I'm hoping that next time they'll put a kill streak in. I think they should do something funny. What do you reckon? I was thinking maybe like attack camels or something. Just something random and zany. I don't know if they'd ever do that. I suppose maybe Call of Duty takes itself a bit too seriously to do that, but let's get it going, Von der Hart. Attack camels. I want to see it. Maybe they're not too deadly. Maybe they just, kind of slowly gallop around the map. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. This is about the Peacekeeper. A decent weapon. You have to use it right or you're going to struggle. I think the other submachine guns are much more powerful if you're a submachine gun player. But like I said, assault rifle guy, try this out. Definitely worth it. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to check out some more of my gameplays. I've got them coming up at the end of this one. If you're watching this on Machinima Respawn, I actually upload these videos at least a week earlier over on my channel. So feel free to check that out. Link in the description. Of course, Don't forget all the likes and favourites and all that jazz. Really helps me out and keeps all these series running. And that's it for now. I'll see you guys soon.